Hi, today I want to talk about one of the main reasons that people quit on themselves and their goals, and then I'm going to share a strategy that will help you from overcoming this. Now, in the pursuit of goals, there's always hard work, and it's normal that you're going to have disappointments. So it's when we have disappointments that it becomes really hard to keep going, especially if you have disappointment after disappointment. And I don't know about you, whether you've ever had a disappointment in the pursuit of your goals, but I know I have, especially back when I was an athlete and when you get injured. That's really tough to keep going when all your plans go by the wayside. However, whatever your goals are, think about it. How often have you had a disappointment and what have you done about it? You see, when we have a disappointment, what happens is our spirits and our energy goes down because we're emotional beings. We're creatures who feel. And a disappointment, of course, it lowers our energy and our motivation, and it's normal. And when we get disappointed, that's the time when those little negative doubts and thoughts pop in and they start to question us. Oh, maybe I'm not cut out to do this. Perhaps it's not my path. Maybe it's not really my time, or I'm not good enough. And when those negative doubts come in, they then create more chemicals equal to the thoughts that we feel. So we go in this downward loop, and when you're not feeling good, you're not going to take the best actions. So I'm not sure about you, but I know I've been through this before, and I would imagine that you have too. So as I said, because we're driven by how we feel, it's harder to get out of that downward disappointment. So the key here is to have a strategy that you use whether you have a win or a disappointment, and then you almost iron out the highs and the lows. Because on the other hand, if you're really excited about something, you can let the foot off the accelerator too. So what I do when I've had a disappointment, let's say I was enrolling a client and maybe at the last minute something happened and they changed their mind. Of course it's disappointing. What I do is I say, whether or not I enroll a client, I take the next step. So that means when I have a win, I always take another action step. And it's not just in enrolling clients, it's in everything. If I have a disappointment, I make sure that I take another action. When you do that, you're pulling together the highs and the lows, and you know that your strategy is simply to take the next step, however you feel, whether or not you feel like it. And I suggest you write this out so you have your own strategy. When I have a disappointment, I always take another step. When I have a win, I always take another step. And make sure that you keep it somewhere where you can see, and you do keep taking another step. Remember, J.K. Rowling had her book rejected 12 times before she got it accepted. There are many, many other stories, great stories. We see the glory, but behind the glory and the success, there's a lot of challenges. There's many disappointments, yet everybody to achieve their goal just got back on track, took the next step, recalibrated. And lastly, in the words of Novak Djokovic, he had a massive disappointment the year before last when he was denied access to come into Australia to play the Australian Open, where he was hoping to claim his next victory. He had to wait a whole year, and he did come back and he won this year. And in his interview, he said, in order to stay where I am, and I want to do that, I have to stay dedicated as well as I have been before I became number one. So I think that's a great piece of advice. You've got to keep going. You've got to overcome disappointments and setbacks. You've got to get down from the highs and just keep going. So I'd love to hear from you. If you need any help, please reach out. And thank you for listening to this week's short episode. Thank you, Mandy Napier, Mindset for Success.